Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Free Kick, another club preview. Today we are talking about the Geelong Cats, and it is a massive off-season change. We are doing a Geelong episode without Willow as one of the analysts or host. That is the big off-season change we're obviously talking about. I'm joined today by Mel. Mel, how are you?
I'm good. I'm no Willow, but I'll try to fill that gap. I mean, Willow did hold the interview for Geelong, so at least her voice is making its way into the episode somehow.
Take the hosting job away from me, why don't you? That's my job. Yes. It's still going to have a Willow flavour. It's still going to have our Geelong expert involved in the episode. Mel, give us a rundown of what the story was like for the Cats last year, and then what we can look forward to change-wise this year.
Yeah, so average season for the Cats. They finished 13th, 5 wins and 7 losses for 93%. And they didn't look bad, but they just didn't look great either last season. They had a bit of a slow start. They didn't win a game till round 4. When they did lose, they were close, and they won some easy matchups. But overall, they had a few disappointing losses at the end. It was really just like a oscillation of meh for the Cats last year, which is surprising and a bit disappointing because they're such an experienced team. So, they're going to be looking to shake it up in 2026. Firstly, in a big way with a new coach. Mick Stinear coming over from Melbourne will be very exciting. I mean, 10 years at Melbourne and look what he was... 10 years? Many years at Melbourne and look what he was able to do. Like, if he can bring that kind of success and skyrocketing up the ladder that he managed to pull off with Melbourne last season to Geelong, that'll be very exciting. But, Geelong coming in as one of the older clubs. In the off-season, they did have a handful of retirements of some of their veterans, like skipper Meg McDonald, which was a bit of a shock, Kate Darby and Shelley Scott, but it did allow them to bring in some young, new talent, which really helped freshen their team up for the coming season, along with a new coach. So they brought in 3 draftees, Evie Coucher, Priya Bowering and Renee Morgan, and they've delisted a couple of players. They've also brought in Emma Murray from Ireland and Nicola Stevens as their only trade over from St Kilda. So she will be a perfect spot to fill that gap in the back line left by Meg McDonald. But yeah, we expect to see good things coming from Geelong this season, I'd say.
We do, but there's obviously no guarantee. Like you said, Mick Stinear spent a very long time at Melbourne and they weren't an instantaneous success. So it will be fascinating to see what comes this season. And we're going to go and throw to Willow for our interview. Now, you've already seen who this is with, but it's worthwhile noting the fact that we are speaking to Kate Surman, who will be our first repeat interview of any player.
Yeah, we're established now.
It was not something we planned either. It was just the name that was provided to us after much backwards and forwards with Geelong. And at that point, it was like, we need to get this interview done. We'll happily interview Kate Surman again. It went so well the first time. So I will throw to that now. Enjoy.
We are very, very lucky to be joined by Kate Surman, our first returning interviewee today. Kate, how's it going?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're very, very excited to have you back and very excited to be talking about my team, Geelong. There's been a lot of change in the off-season, new coach, new captains. Can you give us a bit of insight into how the changes have gone with the Cats and what we can expect in the new season ahead?
I mean, I love change. Change is always a good thing. And I think when you have change, what happens is you have a little bit of freshness. So I think we've got 7 new players and I think we've got 3 draftees. So when you bring fresh faces into the club, you get more excitement, and I think you realise that how lucky you are to be at the club Geelong, because people come from other clubs or come from other states and like, whoa, this is really, really cool. So to me, it brings a lot of freshness. When we're talking about Mick, coaching wise, I mean, his record, is enough really. He's a very, very smart man, a very intelligent, mover around the club. The best thing I think I like to say about him actually is that he gives a lot of psychological safety. So, we've got quite a strong team and quite a lot of depth. So, at the moment you're a bit unsure, but I think that you feel quite safe within it. So we're looking at like who's going to be playing and who's not. You don't feel like you feel confident in what you're doing, but you definitely feel unsure. It's a nice feeling, kind of a strange feeling.
Yeah, brilliant. That sounds fantastic. And
Mm.
one thing we've always loved about Mick Stinear games plans is that he's very defensively minded, likes to make sure that the teams are stopping the opposition scoring. And I think the Geelong backline is probably the area where there's been the most change. Lost, of course, captain Meg McDonald, got a few new faces, and Chantel Edmondson back from pregnancy. Can you tell us a bit how she's fitting back into the team?
Oh, mate, Danny's an absolute weapon. She's always been a weapon. I mean, her ability to kick the ball is insane. She'd probably be saying that she's still trying to find her feet, but we played a crappy game against the Doggies and she absolutely killed it. She was the only one that really probably stood up the whole game. So I know that a lot of the girls down back, the leadership part from Fanny and just her knowledge, and she doesn't talk a lot. When she does, people listen. So for me, I really like having her back, that bit of that leadership for the team.
A player who has played a bit off that half back line, who's now the co-captain, is Rebecca Webster. Can you give us a bit of insight into what her role is going to be? It's been thrown pretty much everywhere on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give too much information. Look, but, she's a really good reader of the ball and her ability to run and carry. So I think the way that Mick wants to play is obviously to utilise more of that run and carry, and, Beck will be involved in that and, winning the ball. I'm not going to give you too much information, but she's an absolute weapon. And I think, one of her strengths really is her. I think a lot of the backliners very, very good at talking. And I think with women's footy, voice is probably and directional talk is still quite down the bottom. So I think if we can, really work on that and get everyone talking and prominent around where the ball is.
Speaking of that, leadership in that back line, another player that you did bring in was Nikki Stevens, who's been around since the inception. Probably a bit of a left field trade for those not in the know, but what's she added to the group? I can imagine she's really brought a wealth of experience and footy IQ as well.
Yeah, I think with Nick is that she's solid. Like, she's not that flashy player. She's not the one that wants to run off the halfback. She's the one that'll just stick and just play, like it's quite funny. Like you'll have trainings, you're like, you may not notice her, but what she's done is she's created, the ability for, Guns to potentially come off of her man or, Becky or even one of our newer players, Indy, who's an absolute jet. So I think it's one of those players that's a little bit more underrated. So I reckon she's probably been underrated for her whole career, and losing Meg down back, you just, you're adding, more wealth to that, some wealth of experience to that back line. So, yeah, I think we just, wow, just sitting in well with the group. She's got a little one, and it's just really, really good in supporting the girls who have kids. So, she's enjoying it. So, I believe it.
Very good. And you did mention a name there, Evie Coucher. Exciting to always have draftees come into the squad. How's she fitted in with the group? And obviously can't give too much away, but are you expecting an early season debut there?
Like, she's an absolute jet. She's solid. Like, her ability to come and intercept mark and just read the play of the ball, it's really, really cool to see. Like, she's definitely not scared. And, for someone who's more of that bigger body and a smaller frame, you'd think that she'd be more of, I guess, that lockdown defender. But her ability to actually run off her player is really good. And obviously, as her career progresses, she'll get better and better at that. When you're talking about a debut, I mean, that's not my choice.
But if it was your choice?
I mean, I want everyone to play. Can we play 30 girls? That'd be great. Surely we just want to win. So, if he's the right player in that back line, then, it's what we want. But, like I said, we just want to win. And if Evie's right, then we'll play it. But I'm not the coach.
Well, speaking of you and your position, the forward line's been a very interesting one for the Cats. You've obviously been running across half forward with Michaela Bowen, who had a career best season last year. I'm guessing she's probably really enjoyed the new coach, given the way Mick has typically played, probably really suits her strengths.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Look, to be honest, I think, for me personally, coming into this season, I was a little bit unsure of whether the way he wants to play would actually suit me. And the more we've done, I'm like, oh, actually, this is actually quite fun, like any type of football, you want to be predictable to one another, and that's a massive thing for Mitch is can we be predictable? And the role of a half forward is to predict, right? So the more we play predictable football, the more fun I get to have. So when we played against Melbourne, we definitely had a bit of predictability there, which you come out of the game and go, oh, this is really fun. But when you're talking about Bowie's just a jet, her ability to run is insane. Like, I don't think the girl feels lactic acid at all, lucky bugger. Yeah, but no, I think, again, that ability to run and carry is also a strength of Bowie. So, the way Mick has positioned her is thinks is right for her. And to be honest, I think you'll see growth with her over the year, and definitely over the next couple of years as Mick's plan kind of comes into play, because you can't expect massive things the first year. You make little changes and then you build on that.
I think one of the other things about that forward line is you've got a lot of tall weapons at your disposal, of course. Ashley Maloney, Jackie Parry, and I really hope that we get to see Chloe Shear out on the park this season.
Yep.
I've been waiting for that three-headed monster. How's she going so far?
Oh, serious? Right. Like, to be honest, like if we take the whole football out of it, just the ability for her to show up every single day after 2 years out, like, the amount of growth that she's had is huge, and you can't underestimate, like, the fact that she's back on the park, like that's amazing. So, she's back in training and absolutely killing it. Obviously they won't, we won't push her too far, but the reality is, you can play her for 10% of the game and she'll probably win you the game.
Yeah.
So I think you'll definitely see her at some point, but I think they'll be a little bit harder with her, and I think that's what she'll probably want. Yeah, like she's someone that, you've got to play someone on her. So to be honest, with Aisling, Sheary and Jackie, I think Jack's going to have a ripper of a season. Because who are you going to put the players on? But Shawnee Mason's actually someone that I'd be keeping an eye out.
Ooh.
She's had so much work in the off season, and it's really showing. So I don't give too much information on her, but I'd be keeping an eye out there, and I'd be putting her in fantasy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I think that's a very nice little tip. Speaking of fantasy players, I think the place where we often talk about is, of course, the midfield, and the Cats have got such a wonderful midfield group, and it's been a midfield group that's been very, very tightly regulated. I think it's mostly been new captain Nina, Georgie Prespakis, and Amy McDonald. I was wondering if, with the new coach, if there's any surprise names we could hear that are actually starting to run through the midfield and getting that opportunity now.
I mean, there is. Am I going to tell you? No. Will you find out? Yes. The one name I actually will talk about is a little Tassie girl. I mean, she's not little. She's actually strong as, is Priya Boeing.
Yes.
She was, I think she's our second draft pick. She is a ripper, an absolute ripper of a player. Amazing hands. So, like, you'll definitely be seeing her at some point across the season, and she's one definitely to look after. And, I think the cool thing about Priya is that she's just a really good human and a really switched on kid. And, lucky enough here, a lot of the kids that they draft is they're used to just really, really down to earth kids. And, someone for me is, the oldest in the group, me and her hang out a fair bit. We do a bit of, we're just teaching how to crochet. We're learning how to sew. So, like she's got a CD, she plays CDs in her car. She's just a happy girl, and she's just going to have such a successful career going forward. And I reckon it'll definitely start this year.
Beautiful. That's fantastic. And I'm assuming the reason you can't say is because you're going to win the W award as a midfielder this season. Is that right?
I wasn't playing in the midfield. I'd love to. I feel fun chasing the ball, but no, I'm not going to need to play in the midfield. No, I think things have happened, but I did last year. But no, I'm not. I won't be playing midfield.
Very good. The one last thing that I do want to talk about is the rucks down at Geelong. Katie Tipping, of course, come across from volleyball, and also got Piper Dunlop, who both shared the rucks a bit last year. Bit of a stop-start to their careers last season, I think, due to injury. How are they tracking, and are they sort of still looking to work that tandem ruck to get the most out of each other, I suppose?
When you're looking at the two rafts, I said I have no idea whether they're going to do the tandem. No idea. To be honest, I don't really actually know what Mick's doing at all this year. His car's quite close to him. But I think you'll definitely see both of them at some stage, whether it's, one off, one on. Both got different strengths, really. Tipper's got that real ability to, obviously hit the ball down because she's tall and she can jump. And then she's still like learning the game of where to go. But the cool thing about Tipper is that she's very professional. She's always in here looking at footage, always doing the extras, and you can see the development from, the end of last year to kind of where she is now, and her footy IQ is really starting to grow. And then you got Piper, who, is fortunate to have a little bit more games under her belt, so she's got a bit more experience, but I think having a basketball background, it allows you to understand public positioning a little bit better.
Yeah.
And I think it's just understanding of like where to go, and she's got really good hands. So they both have their strengths. It's just them just learning and developing and growing with the game, really. And I'm sure at some stage they'll look at trying, if we're going to end up, playing two, that I'm sure one will flip through forward line or something like that down, in the next couple of years or something like that. But at this stage, I'm not 100% sure what's going on. We just play, we just do what we're told. I know the method, I know how we want to play, and then we just go from there.
I mean, that's a good way to go. And as you said, it sounds like it's good fun, which is probably what you want to bring to the footy.
If you have to play footy, then everything's okay, because, obviously you want to win and, but ultimately you want to enjoy yourself and, you want to enjoy the people that you're around. And I've been lucky enough to be at Geelong, and it's just an awesome group, I've said it a fair few times, it was just a bunch of misfits, so I'm lucky enough to, potentially finish my career, and, I'm not planning on going anywhere else, at Geelong, the team I grew up supporting. So, yeah, I think having that grateful piece is, really, really, really important.
You've kind of already hinted at one player, but I'm still going to ask, who is really, really having a fantastic preseason and looks set for a really big breakout year this season at Cats?
Yeah, okay, so breakout year. I think, to be honest, Priya, like I've already mentioned her, so I've already spoken about her, but coming out of the woodwork, which, to be honest, I never really thought, I thought it would take her a little while to get going, is actually Emma Murray.
Yes.
So she's our Irish draftee. Last year she came in, for 2 weeks around the club, and poor Dale didn't know how to, couldn't kick, couldn't do anything. Like, she'd be the first one to say, but to be honest, her progression over the last kind of few weeks, she's got that classic Irish ability just to break the line. And she's really starting to hone in on her skills and the ability to read the game. So I think at some stage, and I don't know whether it'll be this year, but at some stage she will definitely be having a breakout year or game. Like I just think that she's part of that kind of Irish class that's athletic, and they're hungry for the ball, and they're hungry for knowledge, and they're really professional. And I think once she starts to get a bit more gauge of how everything works, it's just going to be a jet.
Sounds fantastic. Sounds like very exciting times down at the Cats. We might leave it there, but Kate Surman, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for coming on again. We greatly appreciate it, and
no problem.
Can't wait to see you out there with the Cats this season.
Great chat. It was a voice I've heard before, but I didn't mind it. I always like talking to the more experienced players at clubs, and I feel like Kate Surman is the kind of person to talk about Geelong.
Yeah, I love her energy. She's so teasing. Like, no, I can't tell you that. Like, she's just a bit of sass coming through. I love it. It's such a good interview to listen to. And I guess, like, she was being pretty shy on where some of the players would be and who we might see, but it does kind of feel like we might not be seeing too many of the rookies debut this year. Like, sounds like when they do debut, they're going to be great. Emma Murray will be a breakout, maybe not this year. Might see Pia Bowering later in the season. So no debuts for the first couple of rounds, it sounds like. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that.
Yeah, well, that being said, this is probably the biggest draft crop that Geelong have had in quite a while. So I will be fascinated to see how quickly they integrate. I also think it's very interesting to hear about some of the players that she was willing to kind of put her opinion or name on record for. So let's just jump right in. Who have you got at number one most fantasy relevant this year?
Yep, it's the highest price forward in the game. It's Michaela Bowen, mid forward listed on 91.3. So she's coming in pretty expensive, but she's also coming off a career best season 2025 off half forward. So lots to look forward to there. We saw last season she's got elite tackle and mark numbers and a fantastic ceiling. She finished off last year in the final game of the season on 131, which is absolutely huge for someone playing off half forward. So that's definitely something worth getting excited about. And, you know, we heard in the interview there's still more growth in her. She was one of those that we saw really benefit from the faster movement in the game style last year, where she can use her kind of like faster outside paced run. So if she can be lifting again coming into this season, that's just going to be fantastic. I mean, she does have always the pedestal to fall off when we've got these highest averaging players on their line, but I think she's pretty solid.
I don't think I've ever heard someone be described as the pedestal to fall off. It feels like quite a visceral image, but yes, she is the most expensive forward in the game. I think she definitely took that leap forward. She was highly regarded before joining Geelong at West Coast. She was one of their original recruits. Took a little bit of time to get going. Last season was also the first season that she had a score over 100 since her second season, when she scored 104. So that was, less than 15 games into her career, and then it took her to her seventh season to do it again. But I think the big thing to talk about is, and you heard it if you listen to our forwards episode, it's the time on ground, 94%. Went under 90% only once last year. And if you've, watched one of your players try and score before and they're playing off a half forward line, all it takes is for their time on ground to coincide with the ball being up at the other end of the ground, and their scoring for that quarter is pretty much done. So to have someone like Bowen who can spend so much time on the ground and continuously hit up areas on the wing in the half forward line, it's just elite.
Yep, it's exactly what we want. Yes, so then
Are you going to pick her? Are you going to pick her?
Oh, I can't remember if she's in my current iteration. There's been so many. But she has come in and out. I think her price tag does put me off a little bit because she's just such a big jump up. And I'm probably putting the cash somewhere else. But she has come in. So we'll see. We'll see what we end up with when the season starts.
That's very fair. Who have you got at second?
Well, second I've got a player who is in my side, Chantel Emerson, the defender who's priced at 44. What I like about her, she didn't play last season, so she's coming in with a discount from her 2025 average of 55. And back when she was playing in 2024, she was Geelong's highest averaging defender. And that's pretty much because of her role as a kick-in taker and a rebounder. She really had that locked in there. We did see Sienna Telleridi took on some of those responsibilities in Chantel's absence last season, but I don't know if she did quite as well as Chantel was doing. So I suspect we will see Chantel right back into that role this season, which does mean like 10 points of upside right there. I'm keen.
I am keen as well. And Chantel Emerson holds the prestigious record of something that's also completely unverified. Most free kicks taken in a row while stepping out of the square. It is, at this stage, her memorial award that we do at the end of the fantasy season. I think that's just going to set the floor. Sounds perfect to me. There might be a handful of questions about time on ground early. I wonder if it's just a regaining of conditioning. We haven't heard anything to suggest that she will. It's just my opinion. It's something I'll be thinking about. But with the price tag, priced at 44, I think I'm okay to pick her.
Yeah, I reckon the first two we've got here for Geelong are pretty solid. And then we've also got Georgie Prasparkas, number 3. So midfielder averaged 93.5. She had a really great year last year. She was leading the league for clearances at 2.5 a game. Centre clearances, and clearances, and third for contested possessions at 14.6 per game. However, she did put up this very steady stream of high scores. She had 6 scores over 100 and 1 over 120, which did see her raise her fantasy average by 20 points. But then the kind of question comes, can she lift that from this season? Are we picking her because she's got a really good average and we know what she can do, but is there headroom here as well? I think the headroom does come with a bit of a question mark. She had the most metres gained at Geelong last season by a long shot, which was a massive lift in her running from 2024. But can she lift even further? I don't know. And then when she was let loose kind of last season to run around that midfield, this gave her a lot of freedom to kind of be everywhere and do everything. But will she be a little bit more locked down this season? I think we discussed this in our midfield episode. It does really depend what we see from how the new coach implements the game plan. But I think that Georgie is someone to have in the back of your mind as not necessarily starting pick, but as a really good option.
Yeah, I think the risk with Prespakis is one, the tag threat. She is comfortably the most damaging player, and part of that damage comes from her run, carry, and then kick. She can have some stretches of play that are truly elite in their impact, score 3 points in fantasy because it's just one kick. I think that's always going to be the risk, and I think that might speak to where I have some concerns about Prespakis, which is with her ceiling. I don't know if she's got that, ability to go 7 marks and 7 tackles. I feel like it's either going to be one or the other, or it's going to be 800 metres gained, but it's not going to be an elite fantasy score because she does love to kick it long and have it leave the zone. But we know that she's got potential. Well, it's an efficiency in a form. But then again, if the game plan does prioritise more lateral 45 kicks, I think Georgie Prespakis is a 100 averaging midfielder.
Which admittedly isn't a huge jump from where she is now. So there's some headroom.
There is some value. It's just, yes, it's a tough price bracket to pick from if you don't think they're going over 100.
Yeah. So then moving all the way down to a very low price bracket with a sprinkle more risk. I've got Chloe Shear here as pick number 4. So priced at 30, listed as a forward. We have not seen Chloe Shear, very unfortunately, in 2 seasons. She's had toe injuries and then leg injuries, and it's really just kept her out of the game. So very excited to hear that she might be coming back in some capacity this season. Her season 8 average was 40 and season 7 average was 48. So she's got definitely some higher scores than her priced at 30. Although I'm not expecting that we're going to see her for a large amount of game time. So I think Chloe Shear is one of those names to have as someone where you're matchup based, you see her debut or you see her come back in and you're like, yes, she is cheap, she's going to be great. This is a fantastic trade down option. She's shown that she does have a pretty good ceiling. She had a massive score of 85 back in season 7, which is yonks ago. But, she's missed 2. So we have to kind of look a bit further back. But yeah, I think she is someone to watch when she is playing. And at that price point, it's going to be very tempting.
Yeah, I think it will be a case of when she comes back in and you are doing a downgrade in the forward line or utility, can you make the decision to, I'll take my 600k fattened rookie down instead of to 200k. If I can still afford to do the upgrades that I want, can I bring in Chloe Shear? I think that feels like the pathway that she's on in our fantasy sides.
Yes.
So I think that's a fascinating one. Yeah, you've got another forward as your 5th player. Let's just jump straight across to there.
Yeah, so I've got Chantel Mason, who is coming into her 3rd season. She's listed as a forward, averaged 34.8. She only played 1 game in season 9. And so I think... Wait, what was my point on this? Oh, yes, okay. Sounds like a bit of a rogue pick, but I think the reason that she could be a good option, even though she's listed as forward, sounds like she's training in the ruck. And rucks at Geelong are not their strength. I mean, last year we saw the tandem ruck situation between Piper Dunlop and Katie Tipping, who were both in their debut year. And yes, there were some injuries amongst there, but overall, they did not really have the strength and the power to be strong ruck options for Geelong. So if Chantel Mason is someone who's coming in here, I mean, she in her third season, yes, she did only play one game in season 9, so it's really like her second season. But if she's coming in as a strong option to take that ruck, I think she could be a pretty good pick, given how cheap she is as well. I think there's an opportunity for a bit of a time on ground lift as well for a scoring increase. And, we heard Spud was being a bit coy here, but, keep an eye out. So are we keeping an eye out for Chantel Mason because she's changing into the ruck role and therefore she's going to be a good fantasy pick? I think so. I think that's what she was getting at.
I think you might be stretching the bow a little bit there. I feel like she's just going to break out. Like she was one of their higher draft picks a few years ago, but I'll grant you this leave pass to take that leap. Maybe she is a fantasy pick. I'll be keen to see it, kind of what the type of player is that Chantal Mason can be. Clearly playing as a tall. I do wonder that they've made Geelong hilariously have made quite an investment in the ruck in both Tipping and Dunlop, and they probably need to pick one to really hammer home their growth. It will be curious to see if they do pick another young player with no ruck experience to play in the ruck. I'll be fascinated to see what that happens. But there's been, it's a Mick Stinear staple of the last couple of years to have two rucks playing in the side, one with 30-40% time on ground. That was Georgia Campbell, Lauren Pearce playing 60% of the time. But I'd be being a bit rash if I'm suggesting that I will get a 1-for-1 conversion here. I really struggled with who to pick as my host special. I think it's worthwhile just mentioning Evie Couch's name. She's comfortably the most highly owned Geelong rookie at time of recording, 44%. And that's down to the fact that she does have some pretty decent numbers in the Waffle W. She played 5 games there in 2025 and included a 28 disposal, 4 mark and 7 tackle performance. A couple of other games in the high teens. Had a 33 disposal game in 2024 in the Waffle W. And then also averaged a pretty solid 72 playing as a defender in the under-18 champs for WA last season. So I think that's... I'm going to need to see what she looks like in the practice match. By the time you listen to this, you will have already seen what she looks like, but she'll definitely be someone I'll lock in and really focus on, given that she is a 250k defender in that price bracket where we really are struggling this year. But the player that I'm actually going to talk about is Aisling Maloney, who, if Evie Coucher was 44%, Aisling Maloney is just under 3%. So basically the same. And it's the fact that I just want to pretend that the 28 she scored against West Coast doesn't exist. And outside of that, this was one of the best forwards last year. And it's just going to be, can she put it together for an entire season? Because I feel like this is something we're constantly looking for, particularly with bigger forwards lines this year. Someone who has a ceiling above 100, who is a key forward, a key target, and Aisling Maloney, 102 and 115, both scored in the last couple of seasons. If you remove that 28, her average jumps above 70. I think she could be value priced at 65.
And
now,
even if she's not value, even if she's not value, she's consistent. She had 2 scores below 60. Like, she is 60, 70 every week, with, these 2 odd games and a nice little ceiling bump occasionally. I think that you can pick her for her consistency. She doesn't really need to average that much higher, although she might as well. But, she could be a player that you just don't sell out because you're going to get a fantastic forward score pretty much every week from her.
Indeed. And with an easier schedule this year, given the poor record, I do think there is some potential there. I don't know if she's in my starting side at the moment, but I feel like she could become an upgrade target during the year.
Agree.
All right. That ends our Geelong episode. I hope you did enjoy. I hope you enjoyed Kate Surman for the second time, if you are a long-time listener, of Free Kick. So you should go back and listen to that episode if you haven't. It was in season 8. We can put the link in the show notes. I might go back and listen to it and have a bit of a blast from the past. See if we've actually improved in the seasons that we've been doing this. Mel, thank you so much for your excellent analysis. Hopefully it's a successful fantasy side this year. I feel like we're at least picking one Geelong Cat.
Yes. Maybe 2.
Maybe two. All right, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed. Make sure you go and follow us on all our social media platforms. Make sure you subscribe to our Substack, where you will have had today a full preview of the Geelong Cats, and you'll hear from us very soon.
Bye.